The invitation arrived on cream cardstock, embossed with gold lettering. Morrison Industries 40th Anniversary Gala, black tie required. My name wasn't on it. I stood in the marble lobby of Morrison Tower, holding my phone where the digital invitation glowed on the screen, forwarded by my assistant, who'd received it from the company's PR department. Every executive, every board member, every regional manager had been invited to my father's celebration. Every single person except me. Miss, do you have credentials? The security guard stepped forward, his hand moving toward his radio. I was 28 years old, wearing a Tom Ford suit I'd purchased with my own money, standing in the building that bore my family name. And I was being asked to leave. I'm Olivia Morrison, I said quietly. His expression didn't change. I'll need to see your invitation, Miss Morrison. Before I could respond, the elevator doors opened. My brother Marcus emerged, flanked by two executives I recognized from the company website. He wore a custom tuxedo and the same expression of casual superiority he'd perfected since childhood. Liv. His tone made my name sound like an inconvenience. What are you doing here? I came for the gala. You weren't invited. He glanced at the security guard, then back at me. Dad was very specific about the guest list. I'm his daughter. You're a lifestyle blogger who lives in New York. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice. Tonight is for serious people. Investors, partners, people who've actually contributed to Morrison Industries. You showing up uninvited makes us look unprofessional. The executives behind him shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. I've built something, I said. Just because it's not a wellness blog? Marcus cut me off. Liv, you post yoga routines and smoothie recipes. That's fine. That's your choice. But this event is business, and you don't belong here. Each word landed with surgical precision. He wasn't angry. He was simply stating facts, the way he'd done at every family dinner for the past 6 years, since I'd declined my position at Morrison Industries to pursue my own path. Does Dad know you're doing this? I asked. Dad's the one who made the decision. Marcus pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. You've always done your own thing, Liv. You can't show up and expect to be included when it's convenient for you. My father appeared from the stairwell, adjusting his cufflinks. Robert Morrison, CEO and founder, looked every inch the industry titan the business press made him out to be. At 63, his hair had gone silver, which only enhanced his authority. He saw me and stopped. Olivia. Not honey. Not sweetheart. The name my mother had chosen, delivered like a quarterly earnings report. I didn't expect to see you. I wanted to celebrate with you, I said. This is a corporate event. His tone was measured, professional. We're unveiling the new strategic direction for Morrison Industries. Shareholders, partners, the board, these are working relationships that took decades to build. I'm your daughter. And I'm very proud of what you've accomplished. The phrase sounded rehearsed. Your website has a very loyal following. But tonight is about the future of a manufacturing company, and I need to keep the focus professional. Behind him, through the glass doors, I could see the grand ballroom. Chandeliers, champagne, waiters in white gloves. 200 people celebrating my father's success. You're embarrassed of me, I said quietly. I'm being practical. He straightened his bow tie. You made your choice 6 years ago when you turned down the junior analyst position. You wanted independence. This is what independence looks like. Marcus put his hand on my shoulder. Come on, Liv. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I looked at my father. Waited for him to say something else. Tell Marcus to back off. Acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, blood mattered more than business. He didn't. Goodbye, Olivia, he said, and walked into his gala. Marcus lingered for a moment. For what it's worth, the blog thing is cute. But you can't expect to be taken seriously when you've spent 6 years taking photos of green juice. The security guard escorted me to the exit, I stood on Park Avenue in November cold, watching through the windows as my family celebrated without me. My phone buzzed, my assistant, asking if I needed anything. I typed back, schedule a call with Julian Reeves for tomorrow morning. Tell him I'm ready to move forward with the Morrison acquisition. What my family didn't know, what Marcus had been too busy dismissing me to notice, was that lifestyle blogger was the cover story I'd maintained while building something else entirely. 6 years ago, I hadn't just declined the analyst position. I'd taken the $200,000 trust fund my grandmother left me and invested it in a struggling e-commerce platform called Verde Group. While my family saw Instagram posts about wellness, I'd been working 18-hour days learning supply chain management, digital marketing, and venture capital funding. Verde Group had scaled to $340 million in annual revenue. 3 months ago, we'd gone public. My stake was worth $127 million. And 2 weeks ago, my head of acquisitions had identified an opportunity. Morrison Industries was overleveraged, bleeding cash from a failed expansion into automotive parts, and vulnerable to a strategic takeover. My father's company was worth approximately $280 million on paper. I'd already secured $320 million in acquisition financing. The call with Julian Reeves lasted 17 minutes. Julian ran Meridian Capital, one of the most aggressive private equity firms in the Northeast. He was 54, brilliant, and completely uninterested in sentiment. "You understand this will be hostile," he said. "Yes. Your father will fight back. The board will resist. This will be very public, and it will be very ugly." "I understand. And you're certain about the timing?" I looked at the financial documents spread across my desk. Morrison Industries' quarterly earnings report, their loan covenants, their cash flow projections. I'd spent 3 months analyzing every number. "Their debt refinancing is due in 45 days, I said. "They need board approval for the new terms, which means a shareholder meeting. We file for the hostile takeover tomorrow, and will force the vote before they can secure alternative financing." Julian was quiet for a moment. "Your father built that company from nothing." "I know. This will destroy your relationship with him." "We don't have a relationship," I said. "We have a pattern of exclusion that I'm tired of participating in." "All right." I heard him typing. "I'll have the paperwork ready by 9 a.m. Welcome to the deep end, Olivia." The announcement went out at 10:30 the following morning. Verde Group, in partnership with Meridian Capital, announces intention to acquire Morrison Industries in an all-cash transaction valued at $295 million, representing a 5% premium to current market price. My phone started ringing immediately. The first call was from Marcus. I didn't answer. The second was from my father's attorney. I let it go to voicemail. The third was from my father himself. I stared at his name on the screen for 3 rings, then answered. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" His voice was steel. "Business," I said. "You're trying to destroy my company. I'm offering your shareholders a fair exit at a premium valuation. If you'd rather I walked away, you're welcome to find $295 million in alternative financing before your debt comes due." Silence. "I built Morrison Industries with my own hands," he said finally. 40 years. You have no idea what that means." "You're right," I said. "I only know what 6 years means. 6 years of building something while you assumed I was wasting my time. 6 years of being excluded from family events because I wasn't serious enough. 6 years of being invisible." "Olivia. The shareholder meeting is in 19 days, I said. "I'll see you there." I hung up. The story broke in the business press within hours. Morrison family drama, daughter launches hostile takeover of father's company. The headlines were exactly as ugly as Julian had predicted. But the numbers didn't lie. Morrison Industries stock jumped 7% on the announcement. Shareholders loved the premium. The board had no choice but to schedule the emergency meeting. 19 days later, I walked into the same building where I'd been turned away. This time, nobody asked for my credentials. The shareholder meeting was held in the 8th floor conference room, with representatives from every major institutional investor attending via video link. The board sat on one side of the table. My father at the head, Marcus beside him, their corporate attorney, and 2 independent directors filling out the row. I sat opposite them with Julian and my own legal team. This meeting is to consider the acquisition proposal from Verde Group, the board chairman began. Mr. Morrison, would you like to present your defense? My father stood. He looked older than he had 19 days ago. Tired. Morrison Industries has been my life's work, he said. We've built this company on relationships, on trust, on a reputation for quality that takes decades to establish. A takeover by a technology company, a company run by someone with no manufacturing experience, would destroy everything we've built. He looked directly at me. Olivia is my daughter, and I love her. But this isn't personal. This is about protecting the jobs of 800 employees and the investments of shareholders who have trusted us for 40 years. Marcus stood next. We've prepared an alternative financing proposal that would allow us to retain independence while addressing our short-term debt obligations. It's a better outcome for everyone involved. The chairman turned to me. Miss Morrison? I stood, opening my laptop. The presentation I'd prepared appeared on the conference room screens. Morrison Industries' revenue has declined 14% over the past 3 years, I began. Operating margins have compressed from 22% to 11%. The failed automotive expansion consumed $47 million in capital and delivered zero return. Current debt-to-equity ratio is 3.2 to 1, which is unsustainable. I advanced the slide. Verde Group's proposal includes full retention of current workforce, integration with our existing supply chain infrastructure, and a capital investment of $80 million in modernization over the next 2 years. We project a return to profitability within 18 months. You have no experience in manufacturing, my father said. I have 6 years of experience scaling a logistics and supply chain business from $3 million to $340 million in revenue, I replied. I understand inventory management, vendor relationships, and operational efficiency. Morrison Industries isn't failing because of the industry. It's failing because of outdated systems and poor capital allocation. I looked at the board members. The alternative financing proposal requires an additional $35 million in debt at 11% interest. That's $3.85 million in annual interest expense that Morrison Industries cannot afford based on current cash flow. The proposal leads to bankruptcy within 2 years. I closed my laptop. Verde Group's offer is $295 million in cash, today. Your shareholders receive immediate liquidity at a premium valuation. Your employees keep their jobs. Or you can take on more debt and hope things improve. The chairman looked at my father. Mr. Morrison? My father sat down slowly. He had nothing left to say. The vote took 14 minutes. 7 shareholders controlling 67% of outstanding shares voted in favor of the acquisition. Morrison Industries was mine. The transition took 33 days. I spent the first week in Morrison Industries' corporate headquarters, reviewing every contract, every vendor relationship, every employee file. The company my father had built for 40 years was now my responsibility. Marcus resigned immediately. His letter was 2 sentences: I cannot work for someone who would betray her own family. Effective immediately. My father stayed on as a consultant, not because I asked him to, but because the board insisted. His knowledge of vendor relationships was irreplaceable, and firing him outright would have damaged employee morale. We didn't speak unless absolutely necessary. The operational changes began immediately. I brought in Verde Group's supply chain team to audit Morrison's logistics infrastructure. We found $12 million in annual savings within 3 weeks: duplicate vendor relationships, inefficient routing, outdated inventory management. I eliminated the automotive division entirely, writing off the $47 million loss and redeploying those resources to Morrison's core business, industrial equipment manufacturing. Within 6 weeks, we'd secured 2 new contracts worth $23 million in annual recurring revenue. The company began stabilizing. Employee retention was 94%. Revenue projections were trending positive. The stock, now privately held under Verde Group's umbrella, was valued at $340 million, a 15% increase from the acquisition price. I'd done in 2 months what my father hadn't been able to do in 3 years. The board meeting in January was the first time I'd seen my father in person since the acquisition closed. He sat at the far end of the table, wearing the same suit he'd worn to his anniversary gala. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. I presented the quarterly results. Revenue up 8%. Operating margin improved to 15%. Debt-to-equity ratio reduced to 1.8 to 1. When I finished, the board chairman stood. "Miss Morrison, on behalf of the board, I want to commend you. These results exceed every projection. Morrison Industries is on solid footing for the first time in years." "Thank you," I said. My father raised his hand. "May I say something?" The room went quiet. "I built this company 40 years ago," he began. "I started with 6 employees in a warehouse in Queens. I worked 80-hour weeks. I took every risk personally. I sacrificed," his voice cracked. "I sacrificed a lot." He looked at me. "You were right about the numbers. The automotive division was a mistake. The debt was too high. I was too stubborn to see it." Around the table, board members shifted uncomfortably. "But I need you to understand something," he continued. "I didn't exclude you from the gala because I was embarrassed. I excluded you because I didn't want you to see how bad things had gotten. I didn't want my daughter to watch me fail." I said nothing. "You've done remarkable work here," he said quietly. "You saved the company. You saved 800 jobs. You did what I couldn't do." He stood, collecting his papers. "I'm proud of you, Olivia. I should have said that 6 years ago." He walked out. The room remained silent. Julian, sitting beside me, leaned over. "You want to say something to him?" I thought about it. Thought about chasing him down, telling him I forgave him, that we could rebuild our relationship now that he'd finally acknowledged my competence. But that wasn't how this worked. "No," I said. "The meeting's over." 3 days later, my father's resignation letter arrived. Not a termination, a resignation. He was giving up his consultant role, his office, his last connection to the company he'd founded. The letter was 3 pages long. Most of it was procedural, details about his pension, his retirement benefits, his non-compete agreement. But the last paragraph was personal. "You were always stronger than I gave you credit for. I hope someday you can forgive an old man who was too proud to admit his daughter surpassed him." I filed the letter in my desk drawer and moved on to the next task. Morrison Industries, now a fully integrated subsidiary of Verde Group, continued to grow. By March, we'd secured 4 additional contracts worth $67 million combined. By June, we'd expanded into 2 new product lines. I promoted 3 employees to senior management positions. I invested $22 million in new equipment. I hired 87 additional workers. I did everything my father couldn't do, and I did it without him. The 1-year anniversary of the acquisition fell on a Tuesday in November. Morrison Industries had generated $187 million in revenue under my leadership, a 22% increase from the previous year. Operating margins had stabilized at 18%. The company was profitable, sustainable, and positioned for growth. I stood in the office that used to be my father's, now mine, looking out over the warehouse floor where 87 new employees were assembling industrial equipment with machinery I'd purchased. My assistant knocked. "Your 3 p.m. is here." My father walked in. I'd agreed to the meeting only because he'd requested it through his attorney, framing it as an estate planning discussion. He looked better than he had in January, healthier, more relaxed. Retirement suited him. "Olivia." He extended his hand. I shook it. Professional. Distant. Thank you for seeing me, he said. You said this was about estate planning. It is. Partially. He sat down, uninvited. I wanted you to know that I've revised my will. Morrison Industries was my legacy, but you've built something better than I ever could have. The company belongs to you now. Officially. I waited. I've also established a trust for your brother, he continued. He's struggling with how things ended. He'd like to apologize, but he's too proud. He gets that from me. Anything else? I asked. My father looked around the office. At the equipment catalogs on my desk, the financial projections on the wall, the team photos from our quarterly all-hands meeting. I was wrong, he said quietly. About everything. About your potential, about your intelligence, about what you were capable of. I dismissed you because you didn't follow the path I laid out, and I missed the fact that you were building something extraordinary. He stood. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect us to be close again. But I needed you to hear me say it, you were right, and I was wrong. I studied him for a long moment. The man who'd raised me. The man who'd excluded me. The man who'd built a company and then lost it because he was too stubborn to evolve. I appreciate you coming by, I said finally. He nodded. That's all I can ask for. He left his business card on my desk, just his name and a personal phone number. No title. No company. Just Robert Morrison, private citizen. After he left, I sat in the silence of my office. There was no dramatic reconciliation. No tearful embrace. No promise of family dinners and rebuilt relationships. Just the acknowledgement that I'd won. Not through luck. Not through betrayal. Through competence, through strategy, through 6 years of building something real while everyone else dismissed me. Morrison Industries would continue to grow. I'd expand into 3 additional product lines next quarter. We'd hire 100 more employees by year-end. The company my father founded would thrive under my leadership. I picked up his business card, held it for a moment, then placed it in my desk drawer next to his resignation letter. Maybe someday I'd call him. Maybe someday we'd rebuild something. But that would be on my terms. I turned back to my computer, opening the acquisition proposal my team had prepared for our next target, a manufacturing company in Ohio worth $180 million. Verde Group was growing, and I had work to do. The door to my office remained open. Employees walked past, heading to meetings, solving problems, building the future I'd created for them. Nobody questioned my authority. Nobody asked if I belonged. I was Olivia Morrison, CEO of Verde Group, owner of Morrison Industries, and the woman who'd turned exclusion into empire. And I was just getting started.